This is David Saltzer from AngelsWin.com speaking today with Inland Empire 66ers manager Jack Howell, former Angels great player. Jack Howell, how you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you, and appreciate the interview.
You know, as a fan, a longtime Angels fan, longtime fan of the game, I'm excited to have you as a coach, to be honest, because I think you have so much unique experience that you can impart on these players, and love to talk about that. But first, let's talk a little bit about the team. What do you see going on with your team?
Well, so far I've been very happy. Early on, we started out basically right around a 500 club, you know, working through some of these young guys who have not played a full season yet. This is a lot of guys, their first experience. And then, of course, you had the COVID, where some of these guys missed a year. So they missed some time. So early on, we had a lot of strikeouts. I think pitching was ahead of hitting for sure. And we had lots of strikeouts and just guys kind of feeling their way through it. The one thing they always did, though, is they played hard. We preach, you know, the relentless execution of fundamentals and playing the game smart. So we were able to instill that in them, that regardless of the outcome of things that are going on, you can still play hard, play the Angel way of baseball, and they've been doing that. And I think now we're through the halfway point of the season. They're starting to feel more comfortable. We've moved up into first place, and I think instilling a lot of those fundamentals in them are starting to pay off.
Madden talked a lot about that when he was initially signed to be the manager. What does Angels baseball mean to you as the manager here in Single A?
Well, I think I've been very fortunate that Joe Madden's our manager and leading our system. Because when he talks about maybe the Angels way or that 1985 way of baseball, he was my rookie ball manager, and then he was a coordinator through most of my time, and then of course a big league coach in the times that I was in the big league. So I think I have a real good understanding of that, and I think the best way is to say is we've kept it in that simple phrase of relentless execution of fundamentals. Not trying to do all these great things, but just be fundamentally sound. If the team is going to bunt, let's secure the out, throw strikes, play defense, run the bases hard, and then of course with hitting, yes, we all want to hit home runs and hit for average and all that, but there's some team at bats that you can have, moving a runner over, maybe bunting guys over. You know, we have all these shifts now, so if a team's going to shift you way over and third base is wide open, why not lay a bunt down and get men on base? So
especially
you know,
if you're a lefty?
Yeah, they're definitely take advantage of those situations and be more about the team. We talk about doing whatever you can to get on base to keep that lineup moving so that each individual participant in the lineup is able to do his thing. And so I feel very fortunate, like I said, that I think I can instill in these guys the way that from Joe Madden and Perry, our general manager, through the system, how they want things ran.
You know, in some ways I kind of compare your club to the parent club. You've had some key injuries. They've had some key injuries. They've been struggling around 500, but you've managed to get these guys to first place. What are you seeing, and what adjustments are you seeing them make to get them to first place and sustain it?
Well, I think it is that just continuing to play the game right. I think if we continue to play the game right, and especially play the game hard and play with a team atmosphere, I think good things happen. You know, you talk about some injuries. We've had some guys that have come up from the Arizona League that have done a really good job. The other thing that might be different than really the big leagues is that it's our job to get these guys as good as they can be and that they develop. And early on, we had some really good pitching. Those guys really pitched their way out of here and they've moved on. And so it's really just instilling them how to play the game, getting them to have an understanding of what it's like to play, you know, 120, 130 games, travel, the practice that we go through. It's a long grind, and mentally preparing them for that is really important. So I think we got great coaching staff. We got some young coaches that are really work hard and really spend a lot of time with these guys. And then during the game, we're constantly encouraging them to be the best they can be. So it's as much as the physical and the fundamental stuff, as well as really imparting them then the mental toughness it takes to play this game.
How did you break the rust off of the players? You know, COVID, as a fan, again, I felt so. Imagine being a high school player drafted in 2019, and maybe you didn't really get many games or anything. You lose a year, and who do you go pitch to? How do you, no gym? How do you get that? How did you get them back?
Well, it was really tough, I'll admit, because especially, you know, now we don't like the strikeouts. There's not much you can do when the guy's striking out, walking back to the dugout. So it was really a tough struggle, and really we just spent a lot of mental with them. We tried to get them to forget about yesterday and what can I do today to fix it and to change it. And we started really, I think it was in Visalia about a month ago, we talked to them big time about two-strike approach. And really just the ability to shorten up your swing, maybe choke up, and just with 2 strikes, battle, foul pitches off, do whatever you can to at least put the ball in play and make things happen. And really ever since then, when we really instilled that on them, the strikeout rate went down. Our batting average on balls in play was really high, so we were able to have the other team make some errors. We were getting base runners on and then get the big hit, and that really seemed to really turn things around for us.
Obviously, the best way to really see how the players are doing is being here in the stands, or like you watching them every day. What are things that players do that tell you not to, indirectly, hey, I'm ready for you to make a call and say, send me out the level? And what can fans see maybe in the numbers or something? Are there specific single A, low, Inland Empire 66ers goals, like maybe you need a walk rate of X, or you need to be putting the ball in play X number of times? So is there something that fans can see that we can?
Yeah, I would say that, obviously the fans are going to see the stats, and stats are one part of it. There are a lot of things with our pitchers and with our catchers and with our hitters, some things that we're focused on. I'm really not at liberty to share those things because those are things that we work on as an organization. Sure. That we try to keep. It's not anything maybe that other teams aren't doing, but sure. There are some of those process type of metric things that we have them really focus on, where maybe their batting average isn't as high as they think, but they're swinging at good pitches and they're having hard contact. Those are things that we get them to focus on other than just maybe batting average, home runs, and RBIs.
And for pitchers, Cali, ERA doesn't
not as
tell
much.
A story.
No, not as much the ERA. The first pitch strikes are important, getting ahead in the count. The 1-1 count, so we don't go to 2-1 versus we want to get to 1-2. So throughout, as they're throwing to a hitter, we want them to focus on throwing strikes early, staying ahead in the count, and pounding the strike zone. So those, that's been around the game forever, but those are things that we really show them that are very important, not only to extend the amount of innings that they can throw, but to keep their pitch count down. And then ultimately it helps our defense, and the quicker we get in and out and get our hitters up there, the better. So it's kind of that overall picture of why they need to be consistent in the zone.
Let's break it down. What's really been standing out pitching-wise, or players or things, and then we'll talk hitters separately.
I think the one thing I've noticed is, a lot of fans might not know, is obviously we have a pitch clock now. And it's very important that these pitchers get the ball and pound the zone and continually pound and attack hitters. And that clock has really helped with that, because it's forced them. Some of the guys that maybe are a little more deliberate and take more time, it's forced them to work quicker. And the quicker they work, I think it's the better for our defense, but obviously for them, it helps in the running game, being quicker to the plate. There's some things where it can really help us on defense as well. So that's been one big deal.
I'm a big fan of that. Every major league pitcher I've talked to who's thrown a no-hitter has told me the number one thing, they weren't thinking. Catcher put the sign down.
Yeah.
They hit they threw what the catcher called. They hit the spot. They weren't thinking. They weren't taking a minute. They weren't throwing 7.
Right.
Do you think that's a positive influence?
Yeah, that's been a big. It's really helped our development. The clock has really helped that, because not only can we can as coaches tell them the importance of pitching quick, but then the clock forces them to do that.
What about the hitting?
Hitting wise, we've really, I think I mentioned earlier that once we started talking about, being aggressive early in the count, because if pitchers are being aggressive early in the count, then we want to attack that first pitch fastball and be aggressive in the count. But then if I do get to 2 strikes, then the importance of 2-strike approach and battling through the at-bat. Those have been really the 2 big things from an offense and defense and pitching.
How has Angels baseball, or the Angels way of baseball, changed? Because one of the things I like about having you as a coach, you have the old Angels way, if there was an Angels way, and now you have with Joe Madden. How has that changed, or how is it the same?
I think it's just been important because it gets us back to fundamentals, and that's the one part of the game that hasn't changed. The teams that pitch and play defense win baseball games. And then, of course, if you want to take it to the next level, and then the teams that are relentless in their pursuit of hitting and battling through counts and battling through at bats, that part of the baseball has not gone away. Maybe what the Angel way and what Joe Madden talks about is that we're getting back to those key fundamentals that have been in the game forever.
One of the things I don't know if most Angels fans know about you, another thing that I think gives you great insight as a manager, you were an undrafted free agent. We've heard a lot that the Angels drafted 20 pitchers in this draft, but they've been out signing a ton of non-drafted free agents. What would you share with those players based on your experience going non-drafted to the pros?
Well, I think what we talk about with all our top picks, as well as our middle and maybe guys that were chosen towards the bottom of a draft, or in this case in free agency, is that if you have an Angel uniform, you have a chance. And I think that our big league front office and big league coaches and staff would agree that if we send them a player that is fundamentally sound in all aspects of the game, runs the bases hard, quality at bats, plays defense, strong, accurate throwing arm, that if he has those fundamentals, that regardless of where he's drafted, they have a chance to play at our big league level.
In today's era, as a manager, how important is it to know and develop them as men off the field as well as on the field?
That's the part that I enjoy about being in this position at this lower first year level, is because being that non-drafted player, I relied a lot on my mental ability. I didn't quite have those big time tools as some of the top picks have. I had to develop those tools being a non-drafted player. And then the way you do that is relying on just mentally hard work. Just being mentally strong. It really, there's one thing to get through the minor leagues and then get to the big leagues and then to stay in the big leagues. It is a mental grind. So being in this position, I feel that's an asset of mine, where I'm maybe not as strong in the fundamentals. I let that great coaching staff really do their thing in that area. But I talk with these players a lot about mental and how to put yesterday behind and not look too far ahead. What does the organization think of me? Will I get to the next level? What you focus on is today's game. Prepare yourself for today's game. Battle even through the game. We talk with them and stuff, and then of course the next day I have some talks with them about putting the past behind you and focusing on what am I going to do today. And if each day I can just continue to get a little bit better each day, then I have a chance.
A couple of questions about your Angels playing, and it still relates to this. I mean, you first came up in '85. So I'm trying to imagine myself as you. You got Doug DeCinces as a third, and you get like 50 or so at bats, I think, in '85, and then you get about 65, 70. Who really mentored you, and how do you look at someone like that and go, hey, I'm at that position, and then you finally make it as a full-timer in '87?
Well, I was very fortunate in that I was a left-handed bat with some power, and in their eyes, I believe, was going to be the next starting third baseman. So I was very fortunate instead of waiting until DeCinces was done, they actually, a lot of people don't remember, but in that spring where I ended up making it, they taught me left field. So I would platoon at left, and then I was always available for when DeCinces needed time off as he was getting older in his career, and I would shoot over and play third. So they really did me a service by allowing me to learn another position so that I could be there and be available, so that at the time came when it looked like he couldn't go anymore, then I could step right in. So I think that was a big asset, the thing that they did for me. And then you talk about the mentoring, man, to name one person, if you think about that '85 and '86, you're talking Rod Carew, Reggie Jackson, Brian Downing.
You have Hall of Famers, you have everything.
Yeah, Ryan Downing was a real good friend of mine. So really it wasn't one guy that mentored you. It was being able to watch these incredible Angel players, and some of them to go on to be Hall of Famers, to watch them play every day. You have no chance but to learn from them just by watching the way they played the game.
What would you tell these guys on how to behave getting into the Major League clubhouse? Because it's, imagine coming in with Trout, Ohtani, Upton, Rendon, all those guys. What would you
Well, over the years, the last few years since I've been back into managing, I've had a lot of those guys that are starting to get there now, and that's the one thing we always talk about is just be yourself, don't change. We hope that the things that all of us throughout the organization that have laid hands on these guys that are now starting to sneak in the big leagues, that yes, we've helped them in their fundamentals, but more importantly, we've talked to them about life and how to be a good teammate and how to be a good person. So the main thing that I say is to make sure that when they get there that they don't change, just be who we've helped them grow to be, and just be yourself and don't let the game change you.
Who have you stayed close with from from those years?
Most of the time they go on and they get busy, but I'm only a text away. I'll occasionally text them. When they make it, I text them, say I'm proud of them.
Also from the 85 and 86?
Oh, 85 and 86. I still stay in touch with Brian Downing occasionally, Brian Harvey, Wally Joyner. We're all off doing our things now. Some are retired and spending time with grandkids and doing things. Some are in other businesses. Some are still in the game, so it's easier to stay with. But normally a text, nowadays it's easy to stay a text or an email away from guys and just say, hey, just thinking about you today.
So I would be remiss as an Angels fan if I did not ask you about one key moment, my favorite moment. When I think Jack Howell, there is one thing and one question I have wanted to ask you for about 30 or 25 years, and it relates to this. I hope you can see it.
Get a home run and a run-scoring double last night. Breaks his bat and hits a drive to right field. It's a broken bat home run. You like that? Check the bat, right? Check the bat is right. The broken part went beyond first base. They want to check it too. That's the first broken bat home run I've ever seen. Ever. Seats, I can't believe it. They want the bat. Pinella wants that bat. Everybody's hollering the bat, and they're taking the bat over to the dugout.
That's cool.
So,
Yeah,
I have been waiting 25 years. I gotta know.
Watch this bat.
I've never seen that before. I have never seen it since. What happened to that bat? You walk up, you got like 2 or 3 pieces of it, you're walking off.
Yeah.
It's the last I've seen of that bat.
My brother-in-law put it in a nice case with a plaque and a couple of still pictures, and I've had it for years up in my office. I have since taken it apart because he put it in a real big deal. I've since taken it apart and I'm starting to put it in more of a shadow box and kind of doing some things with it. But the funny story about that is for a lot of years, really, it didn't get any coverage. And then when ESPN started doing the 30 great plays, it became to where it was being seen more and being talked about more. And then a few years of being seen on ESPN in one of those top plays, then somebody made a big point on ESPN or whatever, where if you really listen to Vin Scully say that's the first broken bat home run he's ever seen, then it really has seemed to get a lot of coverage now and seems to be a thing, and many people talk about it, and I'm really proud of it. It's a lot of things I'm proud of in my career. Never an all-star, definitely not a Hall of Famer, but I think that's the one part of maybe the legacy that is still around that is really important that people talk about, and I'm really proud of.
I understand fans can come out here to the Inland Empire 66ers, get a bobblehead in September 11th, to honor the broken bat home run. They can get a bobblehead with you and a broken bat. How does that make you feel to have your own bobblehead?
No, man, it's awesome. I don't believe I've ever had. I'm trying to think of what those little men wear, those little stick figure men's things that were kind of popular for years. I had one of those, but I've never had a bobblehead, so it really means a lot. Being back here managing, I've had a great time being back in this area where I spent 10 years of my life. Has been great. The fans have all been great, and then for the club to honor that on September 11th with a bobblehead, I'm very proud of that and thankful for that.
Honestly, I would hope someday. I've been to Cooperstown a couple of times in the Hall of Fame. There are great bats in there. If it could end up there, I think with
cool.
a video of that right next, because they have, I hope you've been to the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah.
And they have like videos.
Sure.
Honestly, I would, as an Angels fan and baseball fan in general, because like you have Tatis's double grand slam, that bat.
That would be cool.
To see it.
That would be cool. That would be an honor. That's for sure. Thank you.
What is the one biggest joy you have coaching, and what is the one lesson you want every? If you could say this is the one thing you could learn from Jack Howell.
I mean, definitely when guys, Brandon Marsh made it to the big leagues. We've had some guys that I was either field coordinator or managed with them. And seeing them go to the big leagues is obviously great, but so many people have touched them in their lives to help them get to that area that we all share a little piece of that. I think for me, the real big joy I get is everyone talks about, when guys are going good and things are going good, we're all happy, we're all smiles. But I think the real biggest joy is to be able to, when a guy's really struggling, to be able to sit down and talk with him, to mentally kind of walk him through that process, and then see him end up having a good season or get out of that slump that he's in and continue on. Or maybe he was a guy that came in my office and he was about to quit. And we don't try to talk guys out of it, but you really walk them through that process and and how to be sure that's what they want, and then you see them go on and advance. So, you know, it's all nice to talk about guys making the big leagues, but there's too many people that have a piece of that. I think it's the one-on-one, day-on-day stuff where you help a guy mentally kind of get out of his head a little bit and allow those abilities to come out.
Well, that's what I love and appreciate, and I want to thank you on behalf of Angels fans and AngelsWin.com. You know, I'm a big believer in organizational knowledge, and how many years and you played, and all that knowledge of all the greats who helped you along the way, to see you then pay it forward almost. As an Angels fan, it gives me, you know, some real joy, and it gives Angels fans, I think, a lot of joy. And the sooner you can get them up there, especially some pitching, you know.
Sure. No, we're doing.
But I want everyone coming out here because I love the environment. It's much more comfy. The staff, everyone works so much harder. I find it a great game, and for $12 or $20, you can sit either in the lower section or the higher section right behind home plate and see guys who are working and grinding for the love of the game.
No doubt.
And even you still here paying it forward for love of the game.
Yeah, no doubt. You have to love it. This is a tough game. It really is, and so you have to really love and enjoy what you're doing, and that's what we try to instill in not only us as coaches, but the players.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and more importantly, thank you for developing the next generation of Angels greats.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Really do appreciate it.